For all you viewers out there, if you can hear this, we've got Ray Revill, Minister for Dingoes, myself and Jordie, young American has come over here. She's studying PhD for anthropology. Yeah, that's right. So Jordie, can you tell us why you've come to Australia? What's sparked your interest with dingoes?
Well, I was over in Australia a few years ago on a photography program, and I kept hearing all of these stories about dingoes, and some of them were from my Aboriginal guide, and they were creation myth stories. And then I went into a small town and read a newspaper, and on the newspaper it said, "These dogs do kill children," and it was a newspaper clipping about how dingoes were pests and vicious vermin, and I thought, this is not at all the picture in my mind that I had of dingoes from all the stories that I was hearing before. So I decided to look into it further and find the cultural perceptive differences between how different groups of Australians are going to think about dingoes and how that might affect wildlife management. So that's what I'm here.
Well, there you go. You've heard it here first at Ray Revill's Wildlife Sanctuary in Maryborough, Queensland. Ray, would you like to say something?
So far, what have you discovered? You've been to Fraser Island, and what did you see and what do you think of over there?
I thought it was a pretty sad story over there. The dingoes that I did see did not look like these ones around here. Seemed to be pretty happy, pretty full of spunk, and pretty healthy looking. I saw dingoes that were either hurt really badly from their ears, from their tags, or just really skinny and malnourished. And the interactions with tourists was always a little bit different. Some of them seemed really scared of them, other ones would just try to give them food, or other ones that would just try to take photos of them, and I thought something here is not working right. And from the residents I've talked to, it doesn't seem like anybody's really happy with the management that's going on over there. But what I did find out was that everybody seems to have a different opinion about what should be done. And there are many different factions, I feel, and everybody seems to be saying something about the dingoes instead of having the dingoes kind of say anything about themselves or letting that come to the forefront. Instead, it seems to be a lot of politics, interpersonal, between different groups of people. So it's one thing that I definitely noticed was that at the end of it, it seemed to be even less so about the dingoes and more about these politics between people that seem to be the real issue. So hopefully we can get to the bottom of it and figure out some, anthropological trends and patterns that we see between them, and why these cultural perceptions are so different between people, creating so many problems around this one animal.
Do you believe that on the island it is the people that are causing the problem?
Oh, most definitely. And just like I said, everybody's acting differently in different ways, and everybody's been told, especially the tourists, have been told 4 or 5 different ways of dealing with dingoes when they actually come encounter with them. So I feel like every time that they see a dingo, they run through and they're like, wait, do I do what the tour guide told me? Do I do what my friends told me? Do I do what I read about? Do I do what I saw on this video that I had to watch before I go? And it gets all confused in their head, and then they just act on instinct, and then they just do whatever comes most quickly or most naturally. So I think if there was a more coherent and succinct way of getting, and they had more of like everybody's told one thing, this is the way to deal with dingoes, this is about dingoes, then I think that they would have less trouble dealing with them or handling them. But right now it's just, I feel like they're told so many different things from so many different angles, they just have no idea when they actually see one what they're supposed to do. So,
do you believe that they should be instructed more on actual behaviour, sight behaviour of the dingo, so that the people understand what to look out for when they see a dingo approaching, on its stance, whether its tail's erect or out flat or pointed, or their head's down and ears erect, or should they be more important than waving sticks at dingoes and doing all the wrong things for them?
Right. Well, I think tourists are never told before they go onto the island what a different posture or behaviors of dingoes are actually what they mean, and they don't understand that a dingo is going to act very differently depending on the time of year as well, and the time of day. Instead, they are just instructed to, every time they see a dingo, respond in some manner. Some of them have been told to wave a stick, other ones have been told to go like this and to back away, other ones have been told to stay still, and still others have been told that they should carry around sand to throw in their eyes if they see a dingo. So they're not told what any of the postures are, or if, hey pup, if their tail wagging or tail is down, or if they're crouched down, they don't know what any of that means. They're just instructed what to do when they see a dingo in general. So
yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions delivered out there, and reevaluate the whole situation and try and have our input back into the management strategy of the island. And Simon and I are very big-headed and pretty stubborn about what we do, and we're very dedicated about what we do for the island in general and the dingo population. And hopefully they're going to listen to what we've got to say.
yeah, something needs to change. That's definitely what I came out of there thinking, that I don't have the right answers. They're not my expertise in an ecological or biological sense at all, but I think anybody going onto that island can see that something really needs to change there.
Well, I think the government's also got to look at the fact that the island is over-pressurised through tourism. The vehicle traffic on the island is a detrimental damage causer in a major way to the island structure and ecology of the whole balance of the island as well. So there's many underlying factors that need to be looked into as well.
Yeah.
And if they can get it all right and we can get it all out there, then maybe we could turn it around and go back to what it was like 20 odd years ago when forestry had power and totally managed the island. I believe you spoke to a lot of residents on the island that all were pretty much in the same agreement that forestry did control and manage that island to a pristine manner. Whereas now, it's not so.
Yeah, I think a lot of the residents on the island, I feel that the relationship between them and the dingoes and the plight of the dingoes has degraded extremely so in the last few years especially. And I talked to some people who they were just really saddened by it, that they would know local packs of 12 to 15 animals, and now there's one, and they have lost their pups consecutively now for 2 years, and they're hoping that this year, this little litter of pups is going to make it. But when the mom is so skinny and there's no other dingoes around, and you've completely ruined the structure, the family structure of the pack, it's kind of, it's a precarious situation for them. And I think a lot of the local residents are either fed up and very frustrated with it, or just deeply saddened by it, or both.
And what were your thoughts on when, like last night, I was talking to you about the fact that the dingo numbers on the island is depleted severely now, to the point where we have brother and sister mating, father and daughter mating, mother and son mating. And what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's really unfortunate. I mean, from what I've heard, the pack, one of the most important things is having a critical number of animals to create a pack, and so you have a structured pack where you have elders that are teaching the young to do certain things, and what to hunt, when to hunt, how to act with tourists even. And from what I've gathered, that's now having to raise her own litter, she doesn't have that sort of guardian to teach her how to act and what to do. Instead, she just does whatever she can to survive, and I think that's putting her in a really tough situation, even with how to deal with tourists. But I think if you have that sort of critical, pack structure, you're going to have a more stable pack, and they're going to, in the past, what I've heard is that they actually dealt with tourism in a lot better manner, in the fact that there was never any, a negative relationship or negative interactions between dingoes and humans. But now that the pack structure has been basically disseminated, and you have the, inbreeding, which is just going to be, I think, really detrimental in the next couple of years, and then you increase tourism on top of that, and then you have mixed tourism education on top of that, you're just asking for a spiral down, personally. But
I personally know that some of the dingoes now are starting to breed as young as 10 months and under.
Oh yeah, this one, the one that I was talking about, she had her first litter before she was a year old, lost all of them, had her second litter the next year, lost all of them as well, and this is the third year, and they're really hoping that, she'll be able to.
With that sort of thing going on, I mean, the population of dingoes is not going to be sustainable. It's actually going to decline. And my feelings on it is it's going to decline over the next 2 years to beyond critical, non-sustainable, and we will lose them forever.
So is there a number then that you would like to see on there? Or is there...
There is a number, and the number's got to be above 100 to bring a sustainable breeding regime of dingoes on the island, you need 100 plus. My belief is that that number is below
Below 100.
mark, which is, to me personally, is critical.
Yeah.
And it's beyond serious. It needs dealing with now, and maybe it is too late. And my heart says I think it is, but it's not to the point where we can't turn it around. But to turn it around, we're going to have to bring in a new strain of pure dingo and start a new program and bust up some of the tight genetics that are on the island from the inbreeding and what have you that's going on, and put a new strain in there, and maybe we can alleviate it. It's not a short-term fix, it's a long-term fix from 5 years upwards before we actually see marked changes in it. But I believe, and I know Simon and a few others believe, that that's where we're looking at now, and that's where we're at now.
Yeah. Now, do you think you can approach that one problem of having too few unique genetics in there, while at the same time you seem to have starving dingoes even when there's just one? I mean, is that something where you're going to have to try to get both problems at the same time?
Yeah, we have to attack both problems. We can't just attack one and try and solve one, and then on the other hand go, well, look, the population's increasing, but hang on,
they're starving.
They're starving.
Exactly.
You've got to fight both. You've got to attack with both, and both are doable. It's a case of rehabilitating the wallaby population and that on the island. Build their numbers up too. Their numbers are depleted just like the dingoes, but the government's look on that is, well, they're sustaining the population of both. Well, no, they're not. Come breeding time, a feeding dingo with a litter of pups, instead of taking out one wallaby, is going to take out 3 wallabies. So there's actually an imbalance going on, and the wallaby's the one that's losing out, and then the pups are actually starving because wallaby numbers are already down. So you're not going to win. You've got to balance both, and you've got to do both, and you've got to attack it with both.
Yeah.
And that's the only way I see getting resolved. Or we go back to the old days and we commence feeding stations again, and work on it from there while we're breeding up the population of wallabies, and perhaps introduce eastern grey kangaroos, which are in plague proportions, as we're being told, on the mainland. Perhaps put a population of them on there to counterbalance it. And there's a few alternatives in to do that. But don't put feral animals on there for them to feed on. Put native stock. I mean, kangaroos will survive on there. They will adjust to the sand environment. The eastern grey is probably the hardier of the kangaroos, although the wallaby is the toughest out of them all. But the eastern grey will adjust to that environment, and they're a prolific breeder. They'll have anywhere up to 2 to 3 young in a year, and where the wallaby, 1. So you're limited on your population growth with the wallaby. With the eastern grey, it can be fairly quick. So they're my thoughts on it.